Welcome to Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment Podcast, where we tackle all sorts of great topics in the areas of recruitment, job searching, mindset, technology, marketing, culture, and lots more. It's amazing what you'll pick up. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back, everyone. Another fantastic episode of Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment Podcast. I'm Darren Saul, your host. It's episode 50. I love it. A special one today. And today we've got a great show. Topic of today, why so many people fail to plan their career and what the implications are, with the fantastic Kathryn Palmer. How are you doing, Kathryn?
Good, thanks, Darren. Nice to finally meet you and be on this wonderful podcast. So
I
really
appreciate it. And yes, we've been chatting on LinkedIn and we've been collaborating on LinkedIn for ages.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that we're getting to do this properly.
Finally here.
Absolutely.
And episode 50, I'm glad to have a special number attached to it.
A milestone. 50. I'm very proud. 50 episodes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So what I thought I'd do, I'll just give everybody a little bit of a rundown into who Kathryn is and what she's been up to. Kathryn has had a successful career in the corporate world in human resources for 20 years and is now using this valuable experience to help people find a career with purpose. She's a career coach based in Sydney, Australia. Her holistic approach brings clarity, direction, and positive support for her clients, and she helps her clients land their dream role whilst working with them to create their best life, and at the same time, filling the gaps between where they are now and where they want to be. Kathryn works with senior managers and executives to identify their strengths and values, to align these with the next step in their career, to find a career with purpose, whether that be something more challenging, more meaningful, or enabling a better work-life balance. So thank you again, Kathryn, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I love that. I mean, let me just jump in and kind of just off the cuff. I love that career with purpose. You know, it's something that we're always talking about more and more these days, and it's definitely something that's on the top of everyone's mind. Let's kind of elaborate what that means to you.
For me, and that's why I sort of talk about it from something being more meaningful and fulfilling, because I think there's just so many people that are out there, I know dozens of them myself, and I'm sure you do as well, Darren, that just sort of, work is work, sort of 9 to 5. And especially during COVID, I think it really made people really reevaluate what's sort of going on in their lives and work and what's more important. And I think, that sort of really sort of hit home for me during that period as well. And it's like, life's too short to be doing a role that you don't like, or doing a role that you're not fulfilled in and challenged and all that sort of thing. Sure, you might be earning the big bucks, but if you're not feeling that you're loving life and you've got time or energy to spend it, then for me, I don't see value in that. So for me, it's around finding something that is meaningful, purposeful, that you love Mondays. Like, okay, I get it. Like, loving every single Monday may not be 100% realistic, but not one where you sort of want to go, I just really don't want to go to work today. And, maybe loving majority of Mondays.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so true. And, if COVID taught us anything, it was we took stock of that. We took stock of our day-to-day and what we were doing and, were we on the path to fulfilling ourselves emotionally and spiritually as well, and not just making the money, because it's not all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you find that a lot of your clients come to you with that issue, that they're not feeling like they're working in a role aligned with their purpose, or do you find lots of different things?
A mix of that. So that's a lot of people come to me with those sort of things, but it's also feeling like I'm stuck. I'm not sure what else to do. What are the other options I've got? Or, I've even sort of recently got some clients that are more like, this is where I want to go in the next couple of years. But how do I get there? What sort of things do I need to do to get there? So they know that they're going to be ready in the next sort of 6 to 12 months for that new role, and they want to set themselves up for success so that they got a better chance of getting that role.
Beautiful. That kind of leads in nicely with what we're going to talk about today.
What a great segue.
But I'm going to actually do something a bit different, and I'd love to actually just hear a bit more about your story because it'll tie in nicely as well. And then we'll jump into the content because I think it's really important. But tell us a bit more about your background, 20 years of HR.
Yeah, 20 years in HR. Where do I start? So like a lot of people in the HR world, back last century, Darren. I did my degree in psychology at uni, then started in recruitment, just like you.
There you go.
Yeah. And then, gradually moved into HR, which is what a lot of HR professionals do. Tried, a whole range of different things. And I love HR. There's lots of elements of HR that I love, and tried so many different elements of that. But one thing that I really loved was the coaching part of it, coaching managers, how to better manage their teams. And but when I did some self-reflection a few years ago, it was really like, you know what? I really love the coaching side of it. And I think that's something that I want to, make more of a career out of. So that was the beginning of that sort of journey to start exploring, what that could look like for me. And what I love doing is using my HR experience from a, recruitment and the HR side of things to really sort of give that extra added value to my clients that the typical career coach may not have.
Yeah. And I think that's really powerful because the insights of the job seeking process from a recruiter point of view are very valuable. Yeah. And there are so many little intricacies that can really fast track success. And if you've come from that background, that is incredibly valuable to translate.
Absolutely. And also from the HR side as well, sort of having that sort of different hat on from maybe an internal recruitment perspective and promotions and, that sort of thing. There could be, I was having a conversation with someone not that long ago, and he was getting a little bit frustrated because he'd been in the company for 10 years. Whereas, Mary Jane, for example, had only been in the company for 2 years, and she got the promotion over him. So it's about sort of sharing some insights from behind the scenes from a HR perspective around what us as HR people look for when we're sort of looking for people to promote within the business as well.
And so did you decide one day, okay, it's time for me to move into this, or how did it happen?
Just a gradual sort of thing, but I think COVID really sort of brought that to life, and I did a lot more because obviously we can do so many things during COVID, right? So I did a lot more, self-development, self-study and that sort of thing in that space than I had done before. And I think for me, the trigger for me earlier this year was with Shane Warne passing. Because he was like so young and just happened so quickly. And I just thought, life's too short to not chase your dreams and do something that you love. So I just thought, you know what? Bite the bullet.
Love it. Beautiful. And you're doing this full time now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Amazing. So let's kind of jump in. And we were kind of discussing a little bit before we started the show, but planning for your career, it's such an important thing. And most of us spend hardly any time at all doing it. There's so many, even recruitment, for example, recruiters are renowned for falling into the industry and falling into the role. Like if you ask a recruiter, how did you get into recruitment? Did you always want to be a recruiter? There's always a story as to how they became a recruiter. It's never a planned, process. So, why is it that most of us don't plan our careers and, we plan everything else?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it's sort of like we just allow our lives to happen. So I think, when we're sort of at school, at uni, we sort of choose subjects at school to get us the right sort of marks to get into uni and things like that. Then we finish uni and we're sort of like, okay, well, I'm going to try to find the best job that's aligned to my degree. And I think we do that. So there's an element of planning there, but it's sort of like from that point on, it's sort of like we're on a bit of cruise control, like in your car. Or, or an autopilot. And we sort of, I'll look at that later. Or just busy doing all this, and I've got life's keeping me busy, and I'm getting paid well, so I'm okay. And then you sort of take a step back. It could be 5, 10, 15 years later, and you sort of go, woo, a lot of time has passed, and I am not sure where I am at the moment. And maybe I need to sort of do some self-reflection and be a bit more proactive around what I want to do, because all of a sudden I'm here and it's 15 years later.
Yep.
I've actually had a number of conversations with people in that sort of space that they've been in the company for 10, 15 years. And then all of a sudden it's like, how did that happen?
What am I doing? Yeah. No. I think that's a really good point, because you go to school, you might go to a career counselor, you might decide, oh, that's what I kind of like to do. I think I might be good at that. And you just go on cruise control or automatic pilot, and you think that the system is going to look after you. But I think a lot of people, we're all finding, especially in this day and age, a lot of the time, number one, we change careers many times in our lives, but the whole process is actually something that you have to drive. The system, there is no system that looks after you. Just because you did a course, you're not guaranteed your dream job. You have to do the work.
No, or even guaranteed a job. Like,
100%.
20, 30 years ago, a degree would pretty much guarantee you a job. These days, not so much.
100%. And it's changing. Everything, the way we think about education is changing. So I think that's a really good point, that people, we take for granted that the system might just look after us if we've chosen the path. We might take half an hour or an hour to talk to some family and friends, decide our path and say, all right, that's what I'm doing. And now that's it. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And I think it's sort of, I also was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking it's probably something that really should be taught at school. I don't know what you did when you were at school, but part of sort of mid-high school, we had work experience. We could choose two jobs that we sort of might think that we'd like later on in life. We've got a week of experience at both of those.
Yep.
I didn't do anything remotely close to what mine were. But I think that's all we get at a point in our lives when we're sort of 14, 15, where we don't have any idea of what we want to do from a career perspective. We don't know what it entails, what things, the hours, the pay, and all that sort of stuff. So it's really something that I really feel there's a massive need for, to better educate people around this. So I'm so glad that we've got this opportunity to talk a bit about it today.
Yeah. And when you're young, you don't know what you're really good at. You haven't really developed yet. You don't know where your place is, what your purpose is. There's so many factors. And I think, and these days, I think they say people change careers 5 times in their lifetime or something like that. The statistics show.
And that's a perfect example, because when I finished year 12, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do the thing that I got the best score for in high school, which was Japanese.
Ah, there you go.
So I started with just a general Bachelor of Arts in Japanese until I sort of found my way and found a bit more about what was exciting, what I love doing. So, but Japanese, very interesting.
Very, very relevant.
Yes, very relevant. Very relevant.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I want to chat about a poll that you put on LinkedIn over the last day or so as well, which is fascinating. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I did it a couple of months ago, actually. And I must admit that I had a different agenda to what the poll was about. Maybe a bit of a lie. It could be a dream. But anyway, so it sort of went like, I'm planning an 8-week holiday in 2023 to Europe. So many things to do and see and all that sort of stuff. I've got a list of things that I want to think about, flights, where should I go, what countries, accommodation, all that sort of stuff. And so that's the whole lie, right? Just being honest with you, Darren. And then I asked people, how much time do I need to plan this holiday? So I had like four options, which you typically do for the poll. I had like about 2 weeks, about 4 weeks, about 6 weeks, and probably more than 6 weeks.
Wow.
And the answers to the polls were pretty much 55%, so a little bit over half, said that I need 6 weeks or more to plan for an 8-week holiday to Europe.
Isn't that incredible? 6 weeks or more to plan for a 2-month holiday.
Oh, it's going to be an amazing holiday, Darren. Like, it's not just,
even if it's first class all the way, 2 months, you plan for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But yet with your career, you might plan for 2 weeks or 3 weeks for 4
yeah.
months.
And that's the exact reason I did the poll, because I wanted to sort of put a different sort of spin on the question, because I know that, we as humans, we spend more time doing something that's more pleasurable, something that we enjoy, something we've got to get an immediate sort of reaction to, or immediate sort of level of satisfaction to. And I did it deliberately because I wanted to see what people would say for an 8-week holiday. But then how much time have you put and invested into yourself for your career, which you're going to be at for 40, 50 years?
Yeah, I agree. When I buy a new microphone, I'll spend a week researching every site. I'll do all this kind of
Where
stuff.
can you get the cheapest
Where can
and
I
the
get
reviews?
the cheapest, the best? Is it any good? Blah, blah, blah. And look how much work I'll do just for that. But yet we won't do half that amount of work during our career. We go into, as you say, we go into autopilot, and we just expect opportunities to land in our lap. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. There's a very small percentage of people that have opportunities land in their lap. But yeah, and then there was another post that I did recently as well, where it was more around before the new iPhone 14 came out. I purchased the new iPhone 13 Pro. I just sort of upgraded, spent I think $1,600 or something like that. It sort of made me reflect on the whole career planning thing as well. That, okay, so I spent that much, and I'm sure a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast now have probably in the last couple of years, either paid for a phone outright or something along those lines, like a TV or whatever it might be. And it sort of made me think, when was the last time we spent or maybe invested $1,600 in ourselves, in our career? Soft skills, hard skills, personal development, to make ourselves, improve ourselves.
Yep. To become more marketable, to become more promotionable, if there's a word.
There is now. Yeah.
I love it. We've just created it today.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of people say, oh, I need more training. I need more this. I need more that. My managers, my company doesn't want to provide it. And that's fair enough. I understand. And it can be expensive. But find a way to do some stuff really cost effectively. Ask a few times, do whatever you have to do to invest in yourself and plan your career, because it's so important.
Yeah. And I think the other thing there is, from that wearing my HR hat, is that, over the years, conversations with managers or conversations with employees, that'd be talking around, the company hasn't invested in me. They haven't put on a training course. They haven't paid for me to do this. Where's that next promotion coming from? Or they're not talking to me about what career options I've got within the business. And that's where the gap is, or maybe that's where the confusion is, because I can understand when you're sort of early 20s, you might be thinking that's what the role of the company is to do, or that's what HR's role is to do, or whatever but it's actually not. It's your responsibility. It's our responsibility. And I think we don't realize that, because it's, working in HR, I've seen it before where, companies or HR are sort of thinking, okay, we've got to think about succession planning, and we're going to put Darren into that senior manager role, that director role, but we don't actually think about whether that's something that Darren loves or wants to do. It's what the business wants. So we're planning your career. The company can plan your career based on what the company wants.
That's right. If you're lucky enough that they are planning the career, they might be planning the wrong one.
Yeah, a different type of career.
Absolutely.
So I think that's just another sort of spin to sort of think about, because sometimes we can sort of get lost and have expectations around our employer's responsibility to do that, when, like, if we want to be in control of our lives and in control of our career, we need to get in the driver's seat.
Yep. I think that is such a good point. We can't just sit back and think that the system is going to take care of us. We have to do the work ourselves. You have to be proactive. You have to invest the time and energy in yourself, into your future. You can't just sit back and let it happen, because it doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Such a good point. But let's chat a bit more about what planning for your career actually means. What does that actually look like to you? How do you go about, working in this way with your clients?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that I sort of do that. And it really depends on where they're at, their situation, and in life as well. So one of the first things that I work with my clients on is career clarity. So a lot of career coaches out there, they will say, yeah, Darren, great, love working with you. So what we're going to do is update your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, and give you some tips to answer interview questions the right way and negotiate your salary, and off you go.
You're done.
Yeah, and then great working with you. But what I've found, and just from my own personal experience, is that there's no real sort of uncovering around what is important to you, because we could all be in a role or we're working at one bank now, then we take another role 2 years later, 3 years later, and it could just be the same type of job that we tried to escape, and we did escape, but it's just a different flavor, just wrapped in different wrapping paper. So the whole purpose of the career clarity is to really knuckle down and understand what will make you excited, looking at your career history, looking at your strengths, your values, what's important to you, what you love doing and why, what you like doing and why. And just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you love it.
Yep. Or sometimes it doesn't mean that there's a huge opportunity for it either. You have to marry up what you're good at.
Yeah.
Is it something that you can really make a life?
Yeah. And I use some silly examples with my clients just to sort of really illustrate, that it's you do need to do that assessment, sort of a bit of a reality check. You might sort of think, well, I love fairy bread and I love rabbits. Is there a job that sells fairy bread to rabbits?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's a market for it, but it's just about sort of, you've come up with some things that you love doing and that you're good at and all that sort of thing. But you need to also do that sort of sense check to make sure that there is actually a role out there doing that sort of thing.
Love it. So that's your step one. It's just that initial analysis.
Yeah. And it actually does take some time because, there's no, there are career tests out there, those online ones where you sort of answer a dozen multiple choice or whatever it is, and it comes out spitting out, oh, this is what you should do. I did one of those recently just for a bit of fun to see what it would come out as, and it said, out of 350 jobs, the top job they'd recommend for me is a high school teacher.
Wow, I'd be scared to do
it. Good luck to the children that I would teach, is all I can say. But it just sort of goes to show, that those things, unfortunately, are not real. They're more just a bit of fun, a bit like, horoscopes and that sort of thing, that you're going to come into a big pot of money at the end of the week or something. Yeah. But the whole career clarity piece, and whilst I sort of ran through that sort of quickly, it is something that you need to do a lot of deep reflection on, because you're not going to necessarily know all the answers to that the first time you look at it. And when I did it for myself a number of years ago, it was something that I sort of would write down, reflect, come back on, reflect, and sort of write some more, because it's sort of that sort of process of marinating, maybe, that it sort of really sort of helps you analyze and deep dive into what makes you tick, because you want a role that, and a company, it's not just the role. You could have the perfect job on paper, but the culture and all that sort of stuff that's around it could be the thing that lets you down. So it's around looking at all of that holistically and trying to understand, okay, one way I describe it is like, you've got all these different things you love, your career history, things you don't love, what type of company, the culture. It's like a 1,000-piece puzzle. You've got all the answers right in front of you. Yeah. They're all in a box right in front of you. You know the answers to all of it. But what is on the box, like with most puzzles, there's a picture. So you go, it's meant to look like, a nice sort of scenery with mountains and water and all that sort of stuff. But for your career clarity, there's no picture on the box. It's just a box.
That's right.
Until you start joining all the dots together and joining the pieces, then you'll start understanding and having that real clarity on what you should be focusing on. So you're not sort of wasting your time, looking for or applying for jobs or going for jobs that are not really aligned to who you are.
Love it. And by the way, this is relevant to entrepreneurs and business people as well. I mean, you have to
100%.
think about why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
So,
exactly what I did, for my business a number of years ago. The exact same process, and it is the same. Thinking about culture and environment and your manager and all those sort of things that are important to us that we don't always think about, but really make or break, a role.
and so that's step one. Tell us a bit more about, the other steps in the process.
So then the next step would be, okay, so we do a bit of a stock take of where you're at now.
Yep.
So, let's just say you're a customer success manager, and these are all the skills that you've got now, and looking at, the current job description. So you've got an idea of where you are now and what you should have, and sort of just doing a bit of a stock take to make sure, and a bit of a refresh.
Hi guys, just a quick message. I'm always on the lookout for engineers in the managed services space across Australia, support engineers, systems engineers, network engineers, and solution consultants. I only work with the best companies that are going places, really value their staff, have great techs, and offer stacks of training and other benefits, up to $1,000 for successful referrals. Who do you know? Feel free to give me a buzz, 0414 659 800. But right now, back to the conversation.
So these are the things that I've got. These are the things that I need. Yes, I've got all that sort of stuff. And then thinking about, what does that next step look like? What does that next role look like?
Yep.
And then sort of looking at that and doing a bit of reverse engineering where, okay, I'm looking at that senior customer success manager role now.
How do I get there? What do I need to do?
How do I get there? Yeah, and looking at the job description, looking at the ads that are out there, speaking to people in your network, making new connections in your network, the whole your network is your net worth sort of thing, and really sort of having more conversations to understand what the role requires of you. So there might be some, additional skills that you might need to look up. So if you're at a more junior level now, at that more senior level, you're going to have to sort of, the skills that might be the same as in leadership skills or communication skills, but they're going to expect that next level up.
Yeah.
What sort of things do you need to do? Or what? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What sort of things do you need to do to sort of get to that next level? Yep. Is there a course, some mentoring, some coaching, a whole range of things that you might need to do. So, and that's sort of about doing that sort of stock take. And it's about, you're not going to typically do that when you sort of go, you know what, I'm going to apply for senior customer success managers starting next week.
Yep.
It's the whole career planning thing. If you're thinking that in 6 months, 12 months time, that's where you want to be, then you need to start now.
Love it. So true.
It's sort of the same as, if you're going to save a big deposit for a house, you're not going to sort of go, yeah, on the 1st of January, I'm going to buy a place. Well, you might. Right. But, you need to think, okay, the sort of, what can I get for a loan? What are the sort of average prices of the places in the area that I'd like to buy? And then reverse engineer that from a deposit perspective. Okay, I need $100,000 deposit. How much have I got now? Yep. I need to start planning. So when will I have that deposit if I start putting away this much per week, that much per fortnight? It's the same sort of idea. We do need to plan, and it's just something that I just wish more people did.
Yeah, totally get it. And then I'm assuming that you work with them throughout the process for feedback, for role playing, for just bouncing, for coaching in a way to make sure that they end up where they want to be.
Yeah, we do, and all of my programs, I do have a standard sort of model that I work with, but all of my one-to-one is customized for each individual because everyone's got sort of different needs. I'm working with someone that's 57 at the moment that hasn't applied for a job in 15, 20 years. So that's a big sort of change for him. But, on the other side, I'm working with someone that's sort of early 30s about sort of getting that sort of next step. So they're all getting the same sort of messaging and the same sort of content, but it's going to be tailored. And some people are going to need more of this and less of that. And it's just around, how can I work with you best to get the most out of the whole experience?
Beautiful. Love it. I mean, we all know what the obvious benefits are, but I'd love to just ask, are there any hidden benefits for planning? Have you, in your insight or in your experience, have you noticed any other knock-on effects of this?
Oh, there's so many. How much time do you have, Darren?
Oh, really? Love it. Give us a few. I love it.
Well, I suppose apart from the obvious ones, and it's also, good to sort of just remind people about the obvious ones around, career success. You can go further faster. And once you know what you want to do and you can put a plan in place and get towards that goal faster. It also increases productivity because you're sort of thinking, okay, I'm happy with what I'm doing. You could be in a bit of a rut when you're sort of thinking, what, I don't want to be here. And that sort of impacts all areas of your life as well. And I think fulfillment, like once you have a plan in place, you're feeling a bit more fulfilled because you can sort of see, it's like, when you're looking forward to that holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got that holiday planned in 3 months' time. So you're sort of feeling, I'm feeling good. Like, this is where I'm going. I'm happy. I'm working towards my goals. I did that course last week. I've got the other course planned in 3 months' time. I can see that I'm working towards these goals. I'm increasing my skills in leadership at work. I'm practicing with my team. And I'm doing, so you sort of feel like, I can feel like I'm moving forward. And I think the other thing is like linked to that is job satisfaction, that you're feeling that you're loving your job a bit more than you were before, which was one thing that I sort of really love talking with my clients around is if you are enjoying your job and you can feel that there's progress, you can see the end goal where you sort of go, but that also impacts your life.
Yeah, definitely. Everything. I think you come home, you wake up a better person, you come home a better person because you have a plan and you're enjoying the journey. You know what you're doing. You have a purpose.
Yeah.
And as you say, like the journey is almost better than the destination.
And I think because, a lot of people don't realize that the impact that work, because we spend, so many hours at work over our career, that if you're not happy doing what you're doing, your partner or your kids are probably going to see it or hear it a bit more than maybe what you'd like to admit, but it impacts every other area of your life, relationships, your health. And I think these are sort of maybe the not so obvious things from making sure that you really do have a good career plan. So you do love what you're doing and you do feel like you're going somewhere, because if you don't, it does impact on every other area of your life.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely. I think that's so true.
Yeah.
Very true.
A couple of others I'd say would be, it helps to develop your confidence because you're feeling a bit more, I can do this. I know that I can do this. I've got the right support. I've got the right coach, mentors, and, I'm going in the right direction. So I can feel like, I'm actually making progress and you feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is, you're increasing your knowledge, self-development, depending on what area you choose to look at, but which also increases and contributes to your marketability. That saying, what got you here won't get you there. So right. What skills you've got now that you got when you were 25 to get that marketing assistant job or whatever it might be is probably not going to be the skills that get you to that next level, that more senior level.
Love it. And I mean, listening to you, while you discuss that, it's so fascinating because even the journey of upskilling is already something, is almost like a training course in itself.
Yeah.
It's almost like on this training course for yourself that you've imposed on yourself for your next level. And you're almost in that process, moving yourself to the next level of communication, of how you articulate your story, on how you articulate your purpose, on what you want out of life. It forces you to really take stock and also just tweaks and enhances and sharpens everything about you, which already makes you more attractive and more marketable. So it's almost like a training course in itself.
It is. And I think, you'd know as well from, recruiting people and speaking to thousands and thousands of people and, from a HR perspective as well, that those sort of things really do come across in an interview or a phone interview or Zoom or whatever. We can pretty much know within seconds. And if we can
they're hard to actually identify or articulate, but we sense them. We perceive them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
and I think that's something that I just wish a lot more people knew about as well, because, you know, I think when you're not loving your job, you know, we all have days that we don't love our job, and that's normal. But once it sort of gets to that point of really not loving it and sort of impacting other areas of your life, if you do try and go for a job when you're in that space, you probably won't get very far, or you'll attract the type of job you don't want, which is probably worse. Yeah.
Because so much of communication is nonverbal,
Mm.
and our energy and how our body language and how we portray where we're at in terms of our life and our state of mind, and that comes through way more powerfully than what you say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So true. And I kind of want to tie this into the job seeking process in a way as well, because you know, we've been chatting about, you know, sometimes it can be a daunting process for people, you know, when they're searching for work, especially if they haven't done it before, as you say. They might have been working in a place for many, many years, and it's the first time they've got to go to interviews. What's your insight into how this kind of preparation obviously can make it more enjoyable and a little bit more, you know, tasteful in a way?
Yeah. So I think, you know, it really comes back to, you know, we've all been job searching at some point in our lives, and, you know, it can be really frustrating, and sometimes it can feel like a bit of a emotional roller coaster when you're not really finding that job, or you're not moving forward as fast as you'd like. So, you know, we've all been there, and that's why it's sort of, for me and with my clients, I really come back to that career clarity, because, you know, there's people out there, and you've probably heard these sort of stories as well, where I've applied for 1,000 jobs and I'm just not getting anywhere, and I'm spending, you know, hours and hours and hours a day just applying for every job that comes up. But one of the benefits of career clarity is that once you do that work, and yes, it will take you a bit of work and a bit of self-reflection, like I mentioned before, you'll actually have laser sharp focus on what you want. So then you'll only be applying and investing your energy and your time in roles that are right for you, and that you have a better chance of getting. And you might sort of think, oh, really? Yes, really. Because once you sort of invest the time, and you might write a cover letter, you know, I'm not going to get into whether you should or shouldn't write a cover letter. If you choose to write a cover letter and you sort of express how excited you are about that opportunity, and it's really aligned with you for these reasons, then that will come out, and the hiring manager or the recruiter or HR, whoever's going through it, will sort of see, oh, wow, Darren matches all these sort of things that we're looking for. Or you can see that there's some things that Darren doesn't have, but oh my God, he makes up for it in his enthusiasm and his background and all that sort of stuff. So it's just so important, and it's just something that I think more people really need to know about, because it just helps with that sort of clearness of thought, and you've got certainty around the direction of your career, that direction of that next job, and what sort of things you need to do. And, you know, one of the things that I do with my clients is that once we've got all that, then we look at the resume and the LinkedIn profile after that, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm just going to quickly update my resume first. No. Get clarity on what you want first, and then do that. Otherwise you can still do it, but you might end up doing it twice. So, and time is precious.
That's right. I love that. Like, it's until you really know where you want to go, you have to take the time to do all that first, and then you can find out how to support it with all the other things that you do.
Yeah.
You've got to work out what you're actually trying to achieve.
And it's the same sort of thing if you're looking to buy a house. It's like, okay, well, I've got, you know, $1 million or more to buy a house.
Yeah.
In New South Wales.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try and narrow it down a bit so that we can get clear on the type of,
that's right,
you know, do you want a big house, a small house, an apartment? Is there particular suburbs that you'd like to live in? So once you're clear on the sort of areas or suburbs or the type of house, type of apartment, then it's a lot easier to find that house, because otherwise how can you find the house?
Oh, then it's exhausting. But once you narrow it down, you say, all right, I've only got 2 choices this weekend to look at. That's it.
That's right. Yeah.
So much more fun, much less energy expended, more focused, more and a better execution of your energy, because you're only working on those a few different opportunities that you actually want
Yeah. Rather than, that sort of apply for 100 jobs that come up on Seek today, and sort of like the other strategy of hope and pray, which doesn't generally work. It could, but doesn't generally work. So
fascinating.
And then I think, also sort of going in from that, it's, and you probably have talked about in some of your other podcasts around the whole hidden job market. So we all know depending on which bit of research you read, between 60 and 80% of the jobs that are out there are not advertised. So if the benefit of getting career clarity is that if you're focusing on 10 jobs a week versus 200 jobs a week, you have more time and energy to tap into the hidden job market where your competitors are not typically tapping into.
Love it. Love it. And I think the more you really understand where you want to be, your behavior at work will automatically market you for those particular jobs that you'll be suited to. And they'll almost, in some kind of weird hidden synchronicity, you'll kind of find each other. But you've done the work up front to make that happen. So people onto it, people can see it.
And it's all around, that whole self-awareness thing, becoming more self-aware of what makes you tick is, another sort of area from a career clarity perspective. Because sometimes we've all done it at least once, where we've just taken a role because it pays well, or the job title's really attractive, and it's, oh, that looks nice and shiny. Only to sort of find out that it's not so shiny when you get there.
Yep, so true. Love it. So such important information. I think everybody really has to think about doing the hard work up front when you're either job seeking or you are looking for a promotion in the next 1 to 2 years. Do the work up front, and it will make all these opportunities appear, and they'll be much more focused and relevant than if you didn't.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Have you got any great success stories for us? Any great story that you want to tell us? Obviously not confidentially.
Yeah, let me have a think. There was someone that I was working with a couple of years ago now. She was working as a marketing manager for a particular organization. And then she had a couple of years off to have kids. She actually had triplets.
Wow.
So she had her hands full with all of that. And then probably 3.5 years after that, she said, oh, Kathryn, I want to get back into the workforce, but I don't know how to do that. What sort of things do I need to do to get back into that? So we worked together to really understand, what made her tick and what got her excited, and tailored her approach and her roadmap that we create together to get the most out of that and finding a role. There was someone else not that long ago where he was a senior IT project manager and really wanting to become, to find that next level up, that next level role, sort of program manager, and what sort of things could he do to sort of get to that level. So we put a big plan in place. He also wanted to be known in the industry as, the go-to guy for these types of projects. So it's like, okay, well, what sort of things can we do from a personal brand perspective
Love it.
to, because obviously personal brand is not going to just put it on LinkedIn and it happens the next day. It does take a little while to sort of get going. So it's about, that's what do you want to do? What do you want to be known for? And what sort of things can you do to increase your personal brand? So we've been working a lot, and he hasn't got a new job in that area yet, but he's been getting a lot of interest and connections and DMs and that sort of thing from people on LinkedIn to have conversations, and that's where it all sort of starts.
Absolutely. And that kind of branding and thought leadership will give you opportunities in spades. It takes
absolutely.
a time.
And that is one aspect that I do work with all my clients as well. So you don't need to, I've got one particular client that his aim is to do TED Talks and all that sort of thing. So you could do something at that level, but or something in between. You don't need to be, the next, big guy that wants to do TED Talks or anything like that. It's all relevant to who you want to be, and we can tailor a plan from a personal branding perspective to suit you, because obviously some are going to have more work and effort and that sort of thing that you need to put in, but we can easily create something based on what you want to do.
Sure, I love that. And I suppose based on how much time you want to spend as well,
So
you have to, and that's where it has to, that's where there has to be that connect with what you're trying to achieve and how much time you actually have to achieve it. That has to be
Yes.
right as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and sort of, linking back to your lifestyle and that sort of things as well. You might have a lot more commitments outside of work. So it's about working in and working around those sort of things as well, and understanding what you can and can't do.
Yeah, I love it. Fantastic. I mean, some great
Yeah.
tips for people and great ways of thinking about this, because I think it's so important.
Hmm.
And so when you work with people, do you work one-on-one? Do you do group sessions? Do you do online? Do you do face-to-face? All of the above?
Yeah. For the most part, I've been doing one-to-one, but I've recently launched a small group session, which I'd like to sort of grow more in 2023. I've got a small group at the moment,
Nice.
but what I love about it is that there's different people from different walks of life and different levels of experience that, just that diversity of thought everyone can sort of learn from different people. Everyone's at different stages. Some people are looking for that next career. Some people are looking to plan their career. And what sort of things can I do over the next sort of 12 months to help me get closer to that goal that we've got? So there's been some really interesting discussions that we've had the last couple of weeks on that. And yeah, most of it is on Zoom. Just because we've got people all around Australia, so it's a little bit
it's becoming
difficult
just
to gather.
really efficient. Zoom is just so efficient to do these things.
Yeah, no, we love it. And we do sort of have, a number of Q&A sessions and that sort of thing as well. But we do have like one session a week where we get in and do, we record it so other people that couldn't make it could view it and sort of learn from what the other conversations that are going on. So it's just great. I love just hearing everyone's stories and, everyone helping each other in different ways.
Yeah. And, as you say, we can all learn so much from each other, regardless of which point we're on in that journey. We can learn something that'll just inspire us to tweak our own practice, which can lead to success. So you just never know.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think the other thing is that it doesn't need to be someone in your own industry. You could learn something from someone, in a completely different industry.
I'm
and I think
all for that. I think
being,
even more so. It's great to be open-minded and absorb from other industries and other roles.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody's just doing the same thing too robotically.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
I'm all for that. I think it's
incredible.
Wow, absolutely brilliant. And so if people want to find you, Kathryn, how do they do that?
They can look me up on LinkedIn, Kathryn Palmer. We can put the spelling and all that sort of thing in the link. Maybe there's a link that you can share with my profile or something like that. All my contact details are on my LinkedIn page as well. So you don't need to be a first level connection to reach out. I've got my email and phone number listed on my profile that anyone can sort of reach out.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I'll definitely put those in the show notes so everybody can find you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming on the show. I think we've covered some great ground. I think it's so important, that everybody really do the hard work up front, put in the time to reflect, to think about what you're trying to achieve, and then how you put in place the steps to achieve them, rather than just jumping in without that preparation, because it will make all the difference in the end. I've seen it 100 times before.
Yeah.
And I've kind of said it to some people in very superficial ways, not to this degree.
I bet you have. Yeah.
It's an incredible powerful thing.
Yeah, and I think, you might be, if we've got people that are listening and watching, on replay and things like that, you might be thinking, oh, I'm 40, I'm 50, it's too late. It's never too late to start planning. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to put the perfect plan in place. It's just about starting. Start with something, and then over time you'll reflect it. And if you want some, professional advice, well, then I'm available to sort of help you with that. But don't sort of put obstacles in your way. Life's too short to be in a job that you don't love. So get out there and start planning.
I love it. And kind of two great points that you kind of made there. Like, number one is you don't have to bite the whole elephant all at once. You can take them at baby steps. You don't have to go from the role that you're in now to your perfect role in one jump. It might take a couple of steps, and you also might find that in that journey, you might find something that you might like even better. And step 2 was the one that was really your,
absolutely
your dream job. So,
absolutely.
if you're just open to the process and the journey, you just never know where you'll end up.
Yeah, and it's often that our careers don't go to 100% to plan. That I'll do this job for 2 years, and then that one for 2 years, and that one for two. It often doesn't work that way. So it's about being open-minded and finding other ways to get the same experience.
Yeah, love it. Well, Kathryn, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've really enjoyed that. I'm sure the
Yes, me
listeners
too,
will get a
Darren. Thank
lot
you.
out of that. And I urge them to look Kathryn's details up. Give her a buzz if you want some coaching, you want some information, because she'd only be too happy to talk to you. And I think she'd be, a great person to work with and really help you take your career to the next level.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Darren. And would love to be on your podcast again in the future.
With pleasure. Absolutely. Would love to have you back. Everybody, please write us in. And if there's something that you want us to cover, we'll put a show together for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Pleasure. So thanks again. And everybody out there, hope you had a great one. Enjoy your week. And we'll be back very, very soon for another episode of Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Soul Searching, the Soul Recruitment Podcast. If you'd like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@soulrecruitment.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.